Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. Grant Hermanns needs no introduction to Purdue fans, Purdue football fans, and you got the distinction of being the last guest of the 11th season of Gold and Black Live. I mean, how could it get any bigger than that, Grant?
Yeah, that's big time, man. I appreciate you guys. You guys been with me the whole way, and it's a very exciting journey and a very exciting future ahead. So,
well, I'm going to let Tom ask the educated questions, but I'll obviously there's a lot to look forward in your life, the NFL and the opportunity whether it gets you get drafted or get the opportunity to be with an NFL squad. But tell us a little bit about Pro Day a couple weeks ago and how that all came to be, how you felt about it, and what are you hearing, at least as of now, as you are still a little bit of time away from the draft?
Mm-hmm. So, I trained for Pro Day for about 3 months at a place called Boost in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was definitely an experience, a fun experience, but also a very trying experience, just staying disciplined, staying focused, and staying on task every single day and trying to, build toward that one goal, which is Pro Day. And then, Pro Day came around, and I felt like I had a pretty good day. I ran a 5.240, threw up 26 on the bench press, which was something I really wanted to do, was prove my strength. And throwing up more than 25 with, the length of my arms is not easy. So I was pretty proud of that. And then the rest of my numbers, I thought they were all pretty good. Shows that I'm an athlete, shows that I can move really well for being, 300 plus pounds. I'd like to be a little bit heavier. I was 300 at Pro Day. I was heavier at that when I went to the CGS. So I was 313 there. So I wish I was a little bit heavier, but other than that, I had heard from scouts I had a good day. I'd heard that it was somewhere around a B plus, how they rank it. So I made sure, the scouts remember my face, and I did the best I could during that job interview, man. So I made sure to walk up after and shake every scout's hand that was there and say, "I'm Grant Hermanns, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming out." So.
Yeah, you're a great guy, Grant. I always liked talking to you, always respected you, and I like to see you do well. And boy, as far as passing the eyeball test, I always say Grant Hermanns looks like a Big Ten offensive tackle. So, during Pro Day, you did look good. Didn't look like you got an ounce of fat on you.
Yeah, I definitely leaned out. It was just they had me on a really good diet down there at Boost, so I was eating right, and I think I shaved off 4% body fat and put on 9 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, looks
so
good.
9 pounds of lean muscles. That's not bad at all. So I think my body looked pretty decent for that job interview.
I don't know.
And that hair. Well, go ahead, Tom.
No, yeah. I always like the hair, but you look great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and the hair too. That had cut weight there a little bit too.
Yeah, just a little bit, man. Especially when it was down to my shoulders.
Well, I think you cut it and donated it, right?
Yeah, I donated. I raised close to $6,000 donated to St. Baldrick's Foundation.
Yeah, I remember that tweet last year. I think I may have retweeted that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Have you gotten any input or feedback from the pros at all? I mean, on the field, what they think you do well, what maybe they think you need to improve at, or have you evaluated yourself and maybe what you want to get better at on the field?
Yeah, so my evaluation and the NFL scouts evaluation is pretty close. One thing they like about me is I'm an athlete. Mm-hmm. I can move really well. I understand leverage. I understand how to hand fight, just being from a wrestling background. Yeah. I understand all those things. But things I need to work on is they think my strength, and I agree with them, and just being able to take on a bull rush, because when you get to the NFL, those guys are much bigger and much stronger, and they come at you with everything they got, So just being able to take on that bull rush and be able to sit down and make sure I can be strong enough to handle that. So that's kind of the evaluation from both our perspectives.
How's your knee and stuff? You had a couple knee injuries, right? Are you okay there?
Yeah. Early on in my career, I think it was just lack of experience, not being around a pile, and I got my knee rolled up on. But yeah, it's all good, man. I've been strong for two plus years now, so feeling good and ready to go, and just got to keep training and keep keeping this body strong, man.
Well, you're passing the Zoom test and some good eye contact, and you're doing all the right things. It's crazy that's a lot of the world of what we live in. But any in the left tackle, right tackle front? I mean, is there any from a position difference? Obviously, you spent that time at Purdue protecting the quarterback's blind side. A lot of that. Is there anything or any other possibilities with your size. It seems to me tackle is the most reasonable position for you. But anything that you're hearing that could be different?
Yeah, so a lot of them are saying I played left tackle all 4 years, you guys know.
Right.
But they're saying, I could play right tackle. That would be, very helpful for a lot of teams. And then I've told every team that I come in contact with, I can play guard too. The fundamentals are all the same. It's offensive line. And then, I'm a smart guy. I'm a student of the game, right? So I'm going to look at the best guards in the NFL, and I'm going to study them and, do the best I can and try to transition to that position. And I don't think it would be that hard to transition to that, even though I haven't played it much in the past. I tell these scouts I can play right, left, guard, wherever you need me, that's where I'm going to be. I play offensive line, so I'm not sure about center though. I might be a little too tall for that.
Funny. I've talked to some scouts I know, and some people who cover the draft, and they bring up the fact you're a captain too,
mm-hmm.
and you're a leader, and that's an intangible you cannot discount. I'm sure coaches love having those type of people on their roster as well, guys who have been leaders and show that maturity as well. So I think that's another feather in your cap moving forward here. And I know I talked to you a couple months ago for an exit interview. You didn't seem real comfortable when I asked you. I think fans always want to know maybe what your perspective is offensive line-wise. Talk about the guys coming back, maybe the type of line you think Purdue could have next year. You know that person better than anybody, right?
Yeah, I definitely know these guys better than most. And I definitely think these guys can be the best that probably Purdue's seen since Matt Light and Drew Brees days, man, because these guys, they're getting to be mean, they're getting to be big, and they're getting to be strong. And, they've been together for a couple of years now, 2-3 years. I just think the potential is, to the sky's the limit, man. And I can't wait to see what those guys can do. But, they got to make a choice to bring it together and come together and really decide that they want to be the best possible offensive line and keep the quarterback clean.
When you're looking at that from a leadership standpoint and what it takes, sometimes it's not, not necessarily the most talented group. They have to be the most together group. What have you learned from that standpoint, from that leadership role of trying to direct traffic with some young guys the last couple of years, where you've had to be the guy that was the old vet there? But what has that taught you in this whole experience?
Yeah, so you're 100% right, especially offensive line. Just with the position group we're talking about, like the way that group works, it's not the best guy that makes the team good. It's actually the weakest guy that makes the team or breaks the offensive line, right? So you have to make sure you have 5 guys who are well-rounded and know what's going on and are willing to fight. And just me personally, I've learned that, first, the biggest thing is know what's happening, know what's going on. And once you can do that, you can play confident, you can play fast, you can play mean, you can play all those things. But you have to make sure everyone's on the same page. So that was probably the biggest thing for me as a leader, just making sure everyone's on the same page and then pushing guys, because guys can always go 100 more steps than they think they can. Mm-hmm. So I'll continue that into the next level. But, my first year will definitely be just learning and listening and following too, because every good leader knows how to follow. So that first year, I'll just be a silent leader if I can be. And if not, I'll be following and doing the best I can.
Now, I got one quick trivia question for you, Alan. I asked Grant this question a couple of years ago, and I found out, New Mexico. He told me that he went to his high school was the same one they used in Breaking Bad. How about that?
Oh, I like better Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Are 2 of my favorites.
Both in New Mexico, and I actually took chemistry in the classes that Walter White has taken chemistry equipment from.
I thought I got a kick out of that.
I think that's great. I love that.
On the personal front, I know your religion's important to you, Grant. Talk too about, your fiance, if you have a wedding date set, and talk about your baby as well.
Yeah. So, just my whole college experience, it kind of culminated in me, relying on my faith and going back to that. My wife, it's important to my wife too. I proposed her about 1.5 years ago. So she's my fiance, and I plan to make my wife in about a year. So it'll be June 25th is the date we set. And then my daughter, such a blessing, man. She's the greatest baby in the world. She's 9 months old, actually today.
Yeah.
So 9 months old, and she's just growing so fast and getting so big, and we just can't believe it before our eyes, man. It's truly amazing.
What's her name?
Her name's Monroe K. Hermanns.
Okay, outstanding.
How'd you, what was the process of that name? Is that a family name or
Yeah, so it actually is a family name. It's actually part of like my heritage. So I actually come from an Irish clan called the Monroe clan.
Oh, okay.
And Monroe is actually my middle name. So my wife, she knew like immediately. She knew that Monroe was what we're going to call our child. But me, it took some convincing. So after a while, I kind of came to terms like, yeah, this is a good name, and this is the name for our daughter, and it turned out to be a good name, man. I'm very thankful that my wife convinced me otherwise.
Yeah. You've been through a lot as a player with as many do, with injuries and with ups and downs. You had years where in 17 and 18, especially where you got to bowl games and it was all trending up. You struggled as a team to some extent the last 2 years, and then COVID. I mean, in that job interview, when you're talking to NFL folks, when you're going to interview for whatever job you're going to have, what do you tell them about that COVID experience in terms of not only what you learned, but what maybe you're going to take from that 5 years from now in terms of having to deal with this pandemic?
Yeah, I would say, from the whole COVID experience, it's just like things aren't always predictable. The future is not always predictable. Things can change very quickly. So first off, it's important to have a solid foundation just as a character, as a person, right? And then, go from there just so that you can, survive and flourish in this ever-changing and always changing world that we live in, because, things are just getting crazier and crazier, it seems like. But I think that's what I'll tell them. I'll just tell them that it's important. I learned that it's important to have a strong foundation, and for me, that's my faith. So, it's definitely. I think it's all forced us to look in the mirror and focus on ourselves and work on ourselves for sure.
Yeah, and lastly, before we started, Grant, we talked about Albuquerque, New Mexico again, and you aren't the only famous Boilermaker football player who calls Albuquerque home. Of course, Jim Everett, who was a quarterback when I went to Purdue.
Brian Urlacher too.
Yeah, Brian Urlacher. And he actually stayed in the state and played for the Lobos. I remember that. He was a safety in college for Dennis.
He had a whole locker dedicated to him.
Yeah, he was an animal. But yeah, you and maybe Alan, was there any other New Mexico Boilermakers, Alan?
I don't think so. I've been trying to think of it. I think Jim Everett was the first. At least if there are many, it's going to be on one hand at best. But I think those are the only two that's going to be forever in my trivia. I
could count on 2 hands how many guys got recruited to colleges when I came out in 2016. So it wasn't a lot.
and Grant, talk about maybe your brushes with Jim Everett and your relationship there.
Yeah, so he actually kind of helped me out when it came to kind of looking for an agent, looking for someone in that category, because him and my dad are really good friends. So it was just cool talking. I'll talk to him over social media, never in person, but I'd definitely like to meet him in person when I go back there one of these days. But I've also played against the team that he's coached. So that was a fun experience. We ended up beating them in the semifinals, so I can always, wave that in front of his face. But I'd love to meet him. He seems like a great guy.
Yeah, he is. He's got a great personality, a heck of a good quarterback, and a guy that developed. Took a little while to develop at Purdue, but when he did, his last 2 years were some of the best.
Yeah, he almost transferred. He was going to transfer.
Right. Really?
Yep. When that New Mexico's and my one experience to Albuquerque, New Mexico is always known for the pit and college basketball. Purdue in the 2000 Elite Eight, still stinging over that Wisconsin loss. But I was trying to jog in that altitude. I mean, did that you get used to that from that standpoint? But it takes some time from that standpoint too.
Yeah, it does take some time. When I came down from New Mexico, I felt like I could run for days, man. But now when I go back up there, not so much.
Yeah, it's that plateau thing that you got going for you from that standpoint. When you grew up and growing up in the New Mexico area, favorite NFL teams? I know that's not you'll go anywhere that they happily that you get taken by, but who'd you grow up rooting for in the NFL?
So, funny story. My dad, he grew up in Colorado, so he's a
Yeah.
Denver Broncos fan. And my mom actually grew up in San Diego, so she was a Raiders fan.
Okay.
And then when the Raiders like kind of switched, I think they switched states, they switched like places they were playing for. She moved over to Broncos, so now whole family's diehard Bronco fan. Man, that's how I was raised. So if I had a choice, that's kind of where I would be. But like you said, it's whoever wants me, and whoever needs me, man. I'm happy to play for them.
Yeah.
You bet.
Hey, I'd be the same way, Grant. I just say, tell me where to go, and I'll be there. You know.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah, no question. Well, Grant, thanks so much for your time. We're going to wish you well come draft day. Where will you be physically? Have you made those plans in terms of what that where that phone call is going to come and where you'll be sharing that? What will be a nail biting time? It always is when you don't know for sure how it's going to work out. But where do you plan to be?
I plan to be back home with my family. And then, I'll probably have close family the day of and maybe a couple other really close friends. And of course, my wife and my child. And then the day after, we plan to have a little celebration, just inviting old coaches and, everyone that's helped me along the way. Because, it's me, here, taking a shot at the NFL. But there's a lot of people who are right behind me, who have pushed me and helped lift me up to where I am. So I can't take credit for this alone, not at all.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Grant, and credit to Purdue football, Purdue University, and you certainly are that. And I know you'll be back in the day to Ross-Ade Stadium as a grad and an old grad someday, hopefully from your perspective. But best of luck to you here in the end of the month and in the draft as well. Okay, I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Triple X on the hill, but on the level. I don't know that Grant Hermanns ever ate there, but maybe he did. And any particular favorite?
Peanut butter burger, man. Dwayne Purvis.
The Dwayne Purvis. So
Love
you might if they were going to make a Grant Hermanns burger, what would Grant Hermanns food? What would that be? We have connections here. We might be able to get this done. What's that?
It would definitely be a burger. Yeah, probably medium well burger, and it would have spicy mustard on it, with some pickles. Right. Got to.
We'll check it out with the Airsmans and see what we can get done for you. And I think you'd be perfect. State Farm agent Trent Johnson at TrentIsMyAgent.com and Hilton Garden Inn. They've been with us, like I said, 11 years of doing this, and we've enjoyed every minute of it. And a great thanks to the folks at WLFI, Scott Summer, Gordon Jackson, have been great to us this year, especially this year. We've done almost all these by Zoom. In fact, we've done them all by Zoom, and I kind of like it because we can get guys. Get Grant when he's off site makes life really easy, and it makes, I think, for a better show. But we enjoyed that, and thanks so much. We'll look forward to next year. My guess is our first show might be September 3rd, 2021, the day before that Purdue-Oregon State game. Grant will look forward to that. He'll be busy in a camp, or busy finishing up camp somewhere. Not quite the start of the NFL season at that point.
I'll be watching.
But you'll be watching. And Tom and I will be, as well as the Boilermakers, will take on Oregon State in that September 4th. So have a great summer, everybody. Thanks to all of you for watching this show. And Grant, again, thanks again. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
Grant.
All right.